Alright, well let's jump into this game. It starts with e4, a nice centralizing move which prepares to develop your bishop, and of course we're getting ready to make a pawn duo. Black is advised to stop this pawn duo with either e5 or c5, but in the game he chooses kind of third alternative, which is to play d5. Of course that does stop us from making a pawn duo because our e4 pawn would be taken. The downside with the Scandinavian is that when we take their pawn, Black doesn't have much to do except to take their pawn back with the queen, and unfortunately that leaves them with their queen out a little bit too early in the opening. Does it lose for Black? No, but I think I'd want to play the white side. Now, why should you not bring your queen out early? It's because the queen can be harassed, can be attacked quite quickly, so knight c3 just takes advantage of the queen that's out too early. Okay, again, Black is still not losing. Black has a couple options here. He could go queen d6 to get out of that attack on the queen. He can go queen d8 to dodge it, or as in the game, he can go queen to a5, what I believe is the most popular choice. Now we can take over the center. Thank you very much. We can play d4. And one of the ideas is to play bishop d2, and we'll have an annoying discovered attack on the queen. So with that in mind, Black simply gets ready to dodge anything. Now that the pawn is out of the way, maybe he can just go to d8 or c7. Right, so bishop d2, which we might still want to play, but it will no longer really net us a queen. It will just be a kind of a free developing move, while Black will, easily dodge the discovered attack portion of it. Anyway, instead of playing bishop d2, which I believe is one of the better moves, White chooses the reasonable move, knight to f3. Definitely nothing wrong with that. It just gets ready to castle. Not bad. Black decides to pin us. Probably not the best decision, but let's say it's a reasonable choice. Okay, again, I think White should play bishop d2 and get another free turn on this queen, which eventually will move to c7. We're not going to win the queen, but hey, that's still a nice little kind of tempo preparing threat that we'll do with bishop d2. Instead, they played bishop to f4. That's a pretty good move. And it also helps set up our checkmate that will happen at the end of this position, the Boden's checkmate that we're looking at this game to sort of study. But that being said, really the Boden's checkmate only happens because Black plays pretty poorly. But still, this bishop will be important on this diagonal, so let's see how that kind of plays out. Black plays the move pawn to e6, good idea. Maybe his bishop can come out somewhere to e7, to b4. Okay, not a bad move. It unlocked the bishop. Now, the downside to this move is that it cuts off the bishop's escape squares over to d7 or c8, which doesn't seem like a big deal, except that now we can harass the bishop with pawn to h3. And usually the bishop should retreat while keeping the pin, but in this case, it would simply walk into this pawn avalanche. Pawn g4, they have to retreat, of course. And now, hey, this bishop is getting a little bit, he's not trapped, but it's a little bit awkward on how to save this guy. And yeah, the damage to our king side is not such a big deal because we have the space in the center. We have this huge avalanche over here. White is for choice, although to be fair, the game continues. So with that in mind, after h3, Black kind of has to unfortunately give us his bishop. That's his best choice. And now we can see that they moved their bishop a few times. And what did they get for it? Well, they developed our queen for us. Now, we did sort of call out the Black queen when it went to d5 way back in the start. We were like, hey, that's out too early. And now we're sort of doing it over here. The difference is that we were able to harass that queen immediately. We were able to develop a piece while attacking their queen, which forced them to move their queen twice instead of developing one of these other pieces. And I don't see any way, right, for any piece to somehow do some sort of magical attack. Right, it's not possible against our queen. So if they can't attack our queen that's out early, it's actually going to be well placed. So black's idea would be kind of a bad idea if they were trying to bring our queen out early to f3. This is strong for us. Okay, in the game, they pinned us over here again. They really like these bishop pins, although so far they haven't really done very much. White should probably get ready to castle, and this bishop's in the way, so he gets it out. Maybe you could say, well, maybe I like the bishop d3 or bishop c4, because aren't those more active diagonals for the bishop? And perhaps you're right, but for at least for bishop d3, we wouldn't want to do that, because you can see that the queen is one of the two protectors against these kind of two attackers on c3. So if we played bishop d3, that would be an unfortunate mistake for us. But maybe we could try bishop c4. Anyway, in the game, white chose bishop to e2. Not a bad decision. Of course, it just develops the pieces, and I really like white's position. He has this beautiful center control. He has a lead in development. He's already ready to castle. Yeah. To be fair, again, black is still in the game for sure. He is not losing by any stretch of the imagination, but I would definitely want to play the white side here. Okay, black played knight to d7. He's trying to catch up in development. Like we said a second ago, black has not very many pieces developed. Now here is why, even though this game was played almost 100 years ago, people still remember this game. And that's because of this interesting move, pawn to a3. Now it seems to do nothing, right? Okay, are we gonna take that bishop if we're gonna lose the rook? So this definitely seemed to be a complete waste of time. It does not appear that we're actually gonna wanna take that bishop, because that will just take our unprotected rook. So it seems definitely like a terrible decision. Okay, here famously black blunders, which allows us to sort of set up this famous sacrifice that we're going to see in a second, which ends in this very common Bowden's checkmate, which we have yet to see. So if black had played the best move, or even the second best move, white would still be for choice with that beautiful center control, with that bishop pair, but definitely the game would continue, and maybe, who knows, black maybe could have made a comeback. But unfortunately for black, he made this unfortunate decision to castle queenside, which in this Bowden's checkmate is sort of the base version of this pattern. Usually opponent will castle queenside when they've played this destructive move c6, and that simply there's just simply this open window on the black queen side, and our bishop's already pointing over there. And yeah, it's a very strange decision when you could have just castled kingside in a couple turns, right? Move the knight to f6, castle kingside. I much prefer this house over here. Luckily for us, I mean, the only good thing about black castling queenside is it sets up our puzzle position. So take a second, think, what you would want to do here for white. Definitely a lot of good decisions, but one game ender. What would you play for white? Well, if you suggested castling, A+. That is a great decision. We have almost all of our pieces developed. Our king is way safer than our opponent's king. This bishop's an extra protector, the queen's a protector, whereas their king is castled into this house, which already has a sniper pointing at it. Where's their center control? Bishop is now hanging, now that the rooks are protecting it. Castling, excellent decision. White is kind of close, to winning right there. But did you notice the killing blow, which is a double rook sacrifice? We actually take the bishop. You may say, what? Why would we take the bishop? A rook is hanging, and it comes with a check, and is a skewer on a rook. So white doesn't know how to play chess at all. Well, of course, we probably want to get out of this check. We could drop back or something, but the real point of this was that we're going to give them another rook. They should definitely not take the other rook, but if they don't take the next rook, their queen is in a bit of trouble, or the checkmate that's going to happen if they do take the rook will still happen anyway. So in this game, they just didn't see what the point of all this was. So they like, okay, give me the next rook. I guess I've won. You know, probably didn't see this pin or something. But actually, it's black who's completely lost. And notice it's partly because they castled into a broken house. That's a hint for the move you're going to have to find. And these pieces don't seem to do much for the king's defense. So it's checkmate in 2. Take a second, couple seconds, try to find the game ender. Yes, and that's right. When we're in a winning position, usually because we have like a lead in development or your opponent's king is kind of in a wonky position, right? Because they've castled into this broken house, you should definitely take the time to consider all the forcing moves, which means checks and captures and starting with the queen. So hopefully you are able to find queen takes c6. Brilliant move. Very nice. The only move for black is to take it or resign. And the game they decided to take it. And now where is our checkmate? Yes, of course, bishop to a6. And this is our very famous, very classical idea, Bowden's checkmate. It's the bishops crissing and crossing and cutting up this king. Moral of the story, don't castle into a broken king side like black did. They right, let's go back. They had this beautiful safe house over here. Look at those pawns are just, there's no gaps in there. Why wouldn't you want to live over there? But luckily, or unluckily, luckily because we get to see this beautiful position. Unluckily for black, he castled into the broken house, and you know what? You get what you deserve. When you play bad chess, bad things sometimes happen to you, like Bowden's checkmate.